Ahoy and thank you. Thank you to anyone who has voiced their thoughts, voiced their concerns, who has showed up for the in-game event, any content creator that has spoken up or has participated, shown face. There has been a massive change since yesterday about exactly the topic that I was talking about with the video, about merging all of the servers into different regions, which would have been a massive problem for ping and for any sort of activity. And now this change is not going to go through, and instead there will be a server for AP Southeast and there will be a server for SA East. These will just be merged together between the remaining servers in each respective region, and then the only exception to that will be the PlayStation servers, unfortunately. But this is, I think, a Sony contract thing, so they can't really do anything about that. And as such, that one is just really unlucky, but I highly recommend playing on a cross-play server at this point anyways. So this is where we're at for now, and the reason that they're giving here is very clearly the community feedback. So again, what you did was definitely impactful in that regard. Anyone who spoke out, anyone who showed up, this was your work. Thank you very much. Once again, this means that for many people the game remains playable when otherwise it would have been unplayable. And at the same time, I'm also expressing my gratitude towards the New World team here, because I understand that likely the decision wasn't made easily here. The initial response after the first wave of feedback was basically, we're going to stick to this, which makes me think that financially this is a difficult choice for them to make, and more of a long-term good faith investment, thinking, okay, if we can keep these players, then maybe there is potential for them to bring other people back in the long run as well if we bring out good content, and that may help more than just these players that we have right now, and it may lead to a situation where these servers might be sustainable. So I guess in a way, anyone who is playing on those servers is also not off the hook, which is a bit concerning, right? The merges could still happen at a later point if the servers happen to die more. So let's hope that the opposite is going to happen, and that in the future there will be an increase in players, which will allow these regions to be more self-sustainable in general. The reasons they're also giving here are the queue times, as well as the availability of opportunities to take part in multiplayer content, and they understand that the latency concerns in that regard are also a problem. So yeah, I think this is massive, and I know there are people saying that, well, now you're going to play with your 12 players and you're going to complain in a while again. Realistically, I think people in those regions are aware that the regions are small and that longer queue times are unfortunately a part of that, but there's a difference between having a game that is going to have long queue times and be slower in any terms of content that other people can do quicker, but is still playable, and a game that is just outright unplayable due to either the ping or the fact that you won't find any queues anymore. So yeah, the regions are small, but for those players that really matters, and I think that's the difference between merging two servers, right, and merging two servers in separate regions. Because if you have a dead server and people on that server are refusing to merge, that's effectively restricting content. But in this case, not merging between regions, even though it means a smaller server, is providing content, ironically. So yeah, that is a small price to pay, having that smaller region. Personally, I'm also thinking worst case, you can still make a character on one of the other servers and play that at off-peak times if you're one of the players that plays a lot, just so that you have the option to play when there's no queues in AP. But that's just a side thought, really, more than anything. And I want to show you a little picture which I thought was very funny in this context as well. Quiet GSD on Reddit posted this picture from the AP shutdown protest, and I thought it was pretty funny to look at just because it's a very, very, very small crowd, which is very misleading. And this is because of the thing that I showed you guys yesterday, where characters won't render in if they're too far from each other, because there's too many players on screen. But in this case, that's combined with this player standing too far away, so it doesn't even look like there's a lot of people at all. It looks like there's 12 people or something standing there, which makes the whole thing very unconvincing. I can show you some footage from this particular group meet here, where you can see more people, where you can see the actual crowd that was back there that is unfortunately not visible in this particular screenshot. But also keep in mind that that was the smaller crowd. The bigger crowd was in Brimstone. That was around 300 people, roughly. So yeah, there are still quite a few players there. There is an active player base there. And for those players, it is fantastic that we get the opportunity to continue playing on our server. Now, I've been thinking about what I can do to actively help the community in AP a little more. And I feel like I could do one-off things, tournaments and whatnot, and that's been done and other people are doing that. The problem with those things is that generally they are a bit more temporary, since you can do that once or twice or 3 times and eventually it just kind of drops in interest usually, or it becomes too much of a big beast to manage and it becomes extremely time-consuming. But what I figured I could do that is a lot easier for me to do and that is a lot more accessible for pretty much anyone is, since I have a new CPU finally laying around here that I still need to install, but I have an option to probably stream again. I'm considering to try and stream some PvP queues in AP specifically, with the option or with the opportunity to snipe my queues and hopefully get some, especially 3v3s going, because I know at the moment OPR seems to be almost more likely to pop than 3v3, and I think there are people who want to play 3v3s, but it's just difficult to find enough people. And yeah, I'm thinking of just streaming a couple 3v3s here and there occasionally and see if people want to snipe them. That would be on Twitch TV/SLOTH primarily. No promises on that yet, but I figured that would be one thing that I can do for now that is sustainable long term, where people can just hop into my stream if they want to play 3v3s and see if I'm online, if I'm playing. Yeah, hopefully that's something to tide people over until the next season. I just need to make it happen. I'm still going to talk about Season 10 in a separate video, especially now that I've mentioned that before and then it was kind of connected to a negative thing and now it can maybe be connected to a more positive thing, as I was originally hoping it would be. But I will mention at this point already that I think there will be at least some degree of player influx with Season 10. It depends a lot on how exactly they handle this whole expansion part of it, if it's going to be paid or not. But I think there's some interesting content coming, especially repeatable content as well, which I think is very important for long-term health. And there were some other things in the Q&A that I thought were very interesting, especially their answer regarding more long-term content, because that's specifically what I asked about, where I was asking what's going to happen beyond Season 10. Is it just going to be a quick bump again as usual and then it's over? So we'll see if that can somehow turn things around for these regions as well. We'll see if there's a chance that they can get a bit more of a stable player base and queues might be a bit easier to find. Again, it's too early to say. There's a lot going into this, but I am at least somewhat more optimistic than before, and I will definitely keep an eye on how things develop. And I think that's the relevant thing here, right? Without going crazy into copium, just saying, hey, we'll see what happens. Could go well to some degree at least, and could at least make or keep AP playable to a degree that people can jump into New World and play some PvP if they want to, or play some PvE if they want to. So once again, thank you all very, very much. Also for all the support that came from other regions. It did not go unnoticed. Very much appreciated. And also, once again, thanks to the New World team for listening, making this happen. I didn't think this would actually be turned around. I'm very surprised by this. I know that server merges have been turned around like this before, but that wasn't something that was already so set in stone, that was already basically lined up and then announced afterwards, but rather individual servers in the same region. So I don't think this is comparable. I think this is a pretty big step for them. And yeah, as such, I much appreciate it. Other than that, thank you very much for watching. And thanks to all my patrons for supporting this video. SLOTH, out.